topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Experts, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal. We've got a great show for you today. And guys, this is a show of all the shows that we do. This show is becoming more and more special. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. It seems like every day I read my news and somebody is passing away, but that happens all the time. But I'm talking about people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, some of them who are really healthy just passed away. So I think about, we just never know how long we have on this earth. And I think about that. I think about planning for the future. And we have one of the finest estate planning attorneys in all of Texas. She's the managing attorney of the Dean Law Firm, which is recognized by her colleagues. And I do mean, because we get calls all the time here from other estate planning attorneys telling us that we have a wonderful estate planning attorney. We are so blessed to have attorney Julia Dean. Good afternoon, attorney.
Good afternoon. It's a joy to be here. Thank you.
I love doing your show, and I love doing your show. You should have been a professor also, because
my family was.
Julia, the way you explain something that has a lot of topics, you just explain it to where it's so you can understand it. So I know that when you sit down with your clients, there is so much to know when it comes to estate planning. But I got to tell you, I'm going to call it your bedside manner, is just so amazing. And I know I would come out of your office having complete knowledge of the things that I need to do when it comes to estate planning. So it's so good to have you. Tell people about your firm and yourself.
Well, what I do is what is my joy, and my passion is being able to help other people to strategically place them in good positions with their family, to pass along a good legacy to them through estate planning, and to come alongside people in the difficult times in probate or guardianship or elder law. And so I get the joy of being in the mix of that and helping to make their lives easier.
Well, you do estate planning, you, of course, probate, guardianship, and I think an area that's close to your heart is elder law, as well as special needs planning.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, you have to be a certain type of person to handle special needs planning, because I have a special needs child and I know all that's involved in that.
Yes. Well, to me, I just love it. And it's been great to be able to help families that have vulnerable children. And we don't want them to be subject to what the courts would want without having really great input from the parents who really know what's best for their child. And so if we can do everything possible to provide for them without having to involve the courts, and when we do, to do it in a way that really promotes the family unity and what's best for the child is so much better. And so I love doing that. I love being in the mix of that.
I don't talk about this much with you, but I get reminded because I just got a phone call from your office before. You have a staff of individuals that are so amazing because customer service is so important in your area. And it's so obvious that your staff have big hearts and are very caring people too.
Yes, they do. And our goal is always to provide concierge level 5-star service to each of our clients. And it's a big goal, but it's really important to us that we go out of our way to do whatever we can for them, because we know this is sometimes a difficult area or time for them in their lives. And so we want to make it as easy as possible for them and to have resources for education as well, so that they understand what's happening. Because again, it's new concepts that they haven't had the opportunity oftentimes of learning about in school. And so it's kind of intimidating to come into a law office about something you don't know about. And so we have videos and other things to help people feel more comfortable coming in, or to explain it better after they leave. And as I mentioned last time, I'm writing a book on the questions that people have been asking me and trying to make it even more simple for them, and put it in terms of illustrations that might make it easier to comprehend. And so, these are questions I get a lot. And so I put them all together. So in just different areas, whether it's estate planning or probate or elder law or special needs or retirement planning, things like that. So all of that is in the book. And so we're hoping it'll come out in April is when we're planning our launch party. So
Oh, really?
Get closer. Yes. Looking forward to that.
Oh, God. Well, we'll definitely keep you in prayer for that. The reason I brought up about your staff is we do this show all over the United States, and we have people who contact us with questions going, my attorney rarely returns my call, or if they do, it's a week later. And when you have someone representing you in such an area as estate planning, it's important. I'm not saying they get back with you in an hour, but at least the next day. So the customer service is so important.
Yes, it is. And I have a great team for that, and really have put into place people that really do care about our clients and building relationships with them. We see it as an extension of our own family, and we want to treat them the way we would want our family treated. And I know there's sometimes I'm so busy during the day I can't reach out, but someone else will reach out on my behalf to be sure that we're addressing their needs, and so that I can find a time that I can call them back and discuss those things. So that is very important to us.
Well, we were discussing that many people today have concerns about protecting their assets, probably more than ever before. And with all the lawsuits, the uncertainty, do you find more people are coming in now to discuss how to protect their assets?
I do. I think it's a major concern. I think the first one is let's try to avoid probate. Let's try to avoid court. But the other time they want to avoid court is they want asset protection, so they're not getting sued by someone else in a lawsuit. And it's not just the wealthy people who are coming in concerned about that. It's everyday person who's worked hard all their lives. They have good retirement, and now they've built up a little nest egg for their future, and they don't want to lose that. I mean, they've banked on that all their life to retire on. And so we don't want just an unforeseen creditor, because maybe they're in a car accident and someone injures them and it goes beyond their insurance. Now we're exposed to liability, and they're going to start looking to assets that are not protected. And so that's a scary thought for a lot of people. And also we think of business owners that they're concerned that their business may not be protected, that they could be sued in their business, or that if someone sues them in the business, they can get to their personal assets, or vice versa. Someone sues them personally and can get to their business. So we want to insulate the liability and limit that liability. Sometimes I see business owners, what I'd call flying solo without any kind of corporate structure at all. And they're the most vulnerable because they'll have that liability exposure without any kind of limitations like we would if we had it in a corporate structure. So, that's the first thing I do is make sure they're in a corporate structure, so we're at least limiting that liability. But then there's other things that we can do that we'll be talking about. And then professionals, we see professionals who have that exposure to liability, whether it's in their professions, if they're medical professionals or attorneys or wealth advisors or other professionals, just their own profession can open them up to malpractice suits. So we do see that concern from a variety of different kinds of people.
Our society I think, has become sue happy. I mean, people seem like they're suing more than ever before. And, when you have assets at risk, you've got to protect yourself.
Yes, that is true. And I think we're all concerned about frivolous lawsuits. We're concerned about liability when we unintentionally harm someone, like in a car accident. We're human and we do make mistakes. And so we don't want to lose our life savings because of that. Fortunately, not all of our assets are at risk. There are some that are exempt from creditors or partially exempt from creditors and judgments. And so we want to think about positioning our assets so that we can keep those protected. And when they're not protected assets, there are ways we can protect it that we'll talk about. But just kind of to give you a base understanding, in Texas, we have really great homestead exemption laws. And so our homestead is exempt from just about any creditor except our mortgage creditor. So if we have a mortgage on the house, of course, that's secured and they can come after it. If someone works on your home and you don't pay them, then they can put a mechanics lien against your home and recover against it. And then the last one is your homeowners association. Well, taxes. There's another one. But your homeowners association can come after your home if you don't pay your homeowners association dues. So I always say, pay your homeowners association dues. They're not that much in comparison. And we want to not ever have that at risk. Excuse me.
What other assets could be at risk?
So some of our other assets, if we're looking at non-retirement assets, so another one that's exempt is your retirement assets from anyone except really the IRS and child support claims. So if we have non-retirement assets, those are things like your investment accounts, your checking, your savings, CDs. Those are or vacation home even, a second home, a third property or whatever. Those are assets that are not protected. And that's where we want to start looking at and say, can we protect that from creditors?
And can you?
Yes, we can. And so there's ways we can reposition assets, like paying off our mortgage instead of having it in an account. But, we still want to have some money that's out there and assets out there that are liquid. So the primary way we do it, if we have a married couple, is to use spousal asset protection trust. And this is interesting in that we can kind of combine what the Texas Constitution allows us to take our property, that's most of it's we acquire during marriage, is what we call community property. And we can split that into separate property. And then we can gift it to our spouse in a spousal asset protected trust. Now, the reason we can do that is because the federal laws allow us to gift unlimited amounts to our spouse and not have to pay any taxes on that. So we're combining those things to get that asset protection. And so we usually can't take, just as a background, we usually can't take our own assets and put it into trust and be our own trustee, so we manage the money. and be our own beneficiaries, so we get the benefit of it, and get asset protection. But we can do that for each other, and we can, our spouse, and we can do it for other people. So that's where, if we combine these things, where now it's our separate property, now we can gift it to our spouse, the principal becomes protected. The income is not, the principal is protected. But let's say, we have $500,000 that we now split into $250,000 each, and we gift it to our spouse in the spousal trust. Now we have $500,000 that's exempt from creditors. Now, the only time we can do this is if we do not have any active creditors out there, no threatened creditors, or no reason to believe that we would have a creditor out there. So the time to do it is way before most people think about it, because once that lawsuit's in place, we don't have that ability to get those assets protected that would otherwise not be protected. So it's a great option now. And, when I start explaining that to my clients, they love it because they can do this now. Then they never thought about it. But now they can take their otherwise unprotected assets and make it protected.
Why aren't more people doing that? Such a great option.
It really is. And it's really because people have not heard of this before. And it is a more advanced estate planning and asset protection strategy that few attorneys are actually familiar with. So it's important you go to an experienced estate planning attorney, because having that, someone who knows what they're doing is vital to make this work. So if you have a nest egg that you want to protect that isn't in retirement funds and isn't your homestead, then this is an option you really should consider if you're married.
Julie, have you ever just sat back and thought about all the options that you can share with people? I would call it your checklist. It has got to be pages and pages and pages long. So when someone thinks about trying to handle it themselves, they're going to miss out on so many different things that you can actually do.
And that is so true. Just this past week, I had a much more complex potential client come in, and it just said, just like, hold on to your hat because we're going for a ride, and we're going to start and we're going to add to this, and you're going to need a lot of this, or you should consider a lot of this for your best interest. But I'd only be telling you this if I felt like it was something I would do myself, and that I think is best for you. And so, there's so much. And then if someone doesn't have that, I'm not going to go into that. But of course, if they do have needs to consider some other options, it's a fun time of just education and just helping them to see some different things that they may not have ever heard about before, but could be a wonderful part of their estate plan to really protect them, protect their family. And I love now that we can do legacy planning for generations to come, what we call dynasty planning. The state of Texas has allowed us to do that just a couple of years ago, allowed us now to do this dynasty trust planning where it can go from generation to generation, and we're not getting taxed again and again. And, isn't that what we want for our families, to have this amazing legacy? So this is one way we can do it, protecting it now during our lifetime. And we set up dynasty trust within it. And wow, it's just a great thing we can do for our loved ones.
I got to tell you, you are the real deal, because again, you've got to have, when it comes to practicing estate planning, you've really got to have a heart for this. You have to have a heart for other people. And I just kudos to you. You are that perfect attorney. I mean, God meant it for you to be in a estate planning position when it comes to families, because you are the real thing.
Well, I really appreciate that. It's such a blessing for me to be able to help other people. So I feel like every day I can help someone, it's encouragement to me too.
Julia, what if a person's single? Is there anything they can do to protect their assets and still have use of them?
Yes, there is. So I know we focused on married couples because it's such a great option here in Texas, but also we do have other options if you're single. Now, not the same kind of options that we would as a married couple. Um, but well, we don't have what we just talked about, the spousal asset protection trust, but there are domestic asset protection trusts. And we can go to other states that allow for us to take our own money and put it into trust and be the beneficiary. Now, when we do it, we can't be the trustee of that or be a trustee in that other state. Oftentimes, the corporate trustee is what we'll get in place. But sometimes that's a really great option for our clients that are single, that do have unprotected assets, and they want to get those protected. So it's worth the cost of the corporate trustee and going through them to keep that nest egg very strong and protected. Of course, there's offshore trust. Most people don't like those because then, of course, the trustee is now in another country and is governed by the laws of another country. But yes, you can keep it protected offshore as well. And if we have any charitable intent, there's some charitable trust and charitable options that are really great too, that provide some protections as well.
Well, those offshore trusts with the different laws in other countries, does that make it difficult?
Yeah, so usually most people try to avoid that. And since we have other options, which we didn't used to have a while ago, we now have those domestic asset protection trusts. Most people want to stay here in the United States, and I definitely would recommend that too. And then if we have married couples, we can stay right here in Texas and take care of it, which is even better.
What about protecting our beneficiaries upon our death? And when it comes to estate planning, how do we protect the inheritance they receive from creditors?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So we set up irrevocable trust planning within a will or within a living trust. When it passes on to them, I almost always will recommend separate lifetime trusts for our beneficiaries. And maybe if they're younger, we'll do a common trust that later separates into lifetime trust. But the reason why it's a lifetime, and that's why it's so important, is that's where the asset protection comes in, the creditor protection. That's where the divorce protection comes in. Because if we don't have a lifetime trust, then the creditors just wait until you see most wills that I see coming in have for their children, where it comes out like a third when they turn 25 and a third when they turn 30, and then the remainder when they turn 35 or whatever age. But the judgment creditors just wait. They can renew their judgments every 10 years. And if it's even 55, they'll wait till they turn 55 and take the money. And so, if it's a lifetime trust, they go away because they can never get to it. So that's where the creditor protection is very strong. Also, the divorce protection is very strong, because if we had a judgment in divorce, they couldn't go after the money you've given to your child because your child's going through a divorce, because they don't have any ability to get to that money. And so we've got really strong protections, like an invisible shield around that trust fund. So I love those irrevocable trusts for the asset protection, the divorce protection. But also we use it for tax planning and keeping assets exempt when they go in as throughout the generations through that dynasty trust planning. And we're not adding it to the child's estate and making them have a big tax issue that they didn't need to have. And so we just keep it so they're the beneficiary of it, and they get the benefit of it, but we're not adding that to their estate for estate or death tax purposes. So love those options, because I think they give great protections and great legacy planning for our loved ones.
Julia, tell people why they should retain your firm to represent them.
Well, we would really enjoy the opportunity to get to know you and work with you and find out what your desires are and what you would like to see happen. And then we can help craft it in a way that we have a strategy that would implement your desires as much as possible. If it's not legally possible, we'll tell you, or if it doesn't make sense, we'll tell you, but we'll make it as as much as to your desires as possible. It's important to me to listen to what you want and to implement that as much as I possibly can, and to think of things that you haven't thought of and help you think through that to see if that's maybe a better option for you. And so I would love to have the opportunity to work with you on that. And I think having the experience that I do have, I think, in the team that I have will be a great benefit to you. And the background that I had, I've been practicing law over 30 years, but I had a background in litigation. So commercial litigation and different forms of litigation and appellate law. And so that background helps me to spot issues and prevent those from coming up in your family or minimize the risk as much as possible.
Julia, for the people who are watching on TV now, how do we convince them that you've been practicing for 30 years?
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. I guess you can go look at my bar license.
I just told everybody how honest you are. Well, let's give everyone your phone number, especially your website address.
Yes. So my phone number is 281-277-3326. And my website is Julia, Julia, Dean, DEAN, law, LAW.com. So it's just juliadeanlaw.com. And again, my phone number is 281-277-3326, or Dean, actually, is the last four numbers.
Well, from my heart to yours, Julia, we are so blessed to have you. You'll be back again with us in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yes.
2 weeks, we'll be back again. And thank you so much again for joining us, and have a wonderful and blessed weekend.
Thank you. Have a great day.
That's attorney Julia Dean, the Dean Law Offices. That's going to wrap it up for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts. God bless everybody.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.